Hey, hi everybody. I think we are officially live for the Scritch Scratch book launch. I'm so excited to finally be here today. I feel like we've been waiting forever for this book to come out. I know I have been waiting forever for this book to come out. Traditional publishing is like a snail. So I'm thrilled to finally be here. Thank you, first of all, to Sarah Nicholas, who helped put all of this together today. Hi, Miss Mancini. I see people already popping up in the comments. That's exciting. And also want to say thank you to Jen, who is going to be interviewing here pretty soon as well. Jen Calonita, fellow author and really good friend of mine. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're on kind of a tight schedule and I'm long-winded. So I'm going to go ahead and dig right in. The whole reason we're here, if you guys are tuning in and you don't know me, hi, Juliana. I am Lindsay Currie. I'm the author of spooky middle grade novels. And the book we're celebrating today is this one here. This gorgeous little beauty with the spooky little bus on the cover. This is Scritch Scratch, which isn't officially out today, although I have been informed that some Barnes and Nobles are kind of cheating a little bit and putting it out on shelves. That's okay. It's actually out officially on the 1st, so in just a couple of days. And if you don't really know what Scritch Scratch is about, it's a middle grade ghost story set here in Chicago. I live in Chicago and I love to play with obscure Chicago history when I'm writing books. And this one has a ton of really fun, I guess you could say kind of dark and spooky history in it. Hi, Misty. I'm so happy to see you guys all chiming in. And Misty is also another person in the Countdown to Scritch Scratch like street team. So it's really cool to see. Hi, Sarah. Oh, I'm so distracted and excited by all of the comments. So Scritch Scratch, I'll give you a really quick overview if you don't know what it's about. Scritch Scratch follows the story of Claire Coaster, who's a 12-year-old here in Chicago. She's really into science, guys. So she really considers herself a scientist. And that's how she makes sense of the world around her, okay? Everything to her is viewed through a scientific lens. And what's fun about this is that it really puts her at odds immediately with her father, who is very unscientific. He's a little bit more eclectic. He's a historian and author, and he's super duper into ghosts and the paranormal. And he runs this tour bus, the Spirits Bus, which goes all through Chicago, taking his passengers to the most haunted locations. So let me just show you on the inside of this book because I think it's so beautiful. Oh, hi, Lisa. And also, guys, if you, I know that I need to make a note of this. I see a couple here saying Facebook user in the comments that pop up. If you've typed a comment in and it shows up as Facebook user, essentially that means that there's like a little thing at the top of your page I think you can click that will give them permission to show your actual name. So I'm not sure who you are. I'm really happy you're here. But if it says Facebook user and you want me to know who you are, try to find that permissions thing at the top. So the Scritch Scratch, the tour in Scritch Scratch, I want to show you guys this incredible map. I think it's so pretty. Never in a million years thought I would have a map inside of a book. Isn't that beautiful? It shows all the different locations that the Spirits Bus goes to. So I'm super excited to have that in here. And as you guys may have already suspected, our poor main character, Claire, poor thing, she's ends up forced to go on the bus with her father. She has to help him on a weekend, even though there's nothing she despises more than this tour bus. And things get really wonky from there. At the end of the tour, she thinks she has survived. And unfortunately, bum, 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 because I love to put my characters in horrible, atrocious situations, she sees a little boy at the back of the bus who was never there before, a very ghostly little boy. And from there, some very bone-chilling things start happening to her. So that is the general premise of Scritch Scratch. Claire needs to find out who is haunting her, if she's truly being haunted, and what they want. Oh, hi, Lorelai. Oh, hi, Jen. And yes, thank you. The internet is back up. For those of you who didn't see my frantic tweets earlier today, Chicago had like a massive internet outage right before this event. And I thought that I was going to have some trouble, but I'm really glad we're good now. On the schedule for today, in our 40 minutes together, we're going to do some fun facts. I'm going to read you guys an excerpt. I've picked out a really spooky one. And then we're going to do a giveaway as well. And we have an interview coming up with author Jen Calonita, who's one of my favorite people in the world. You guys are going to love her. And I know her questions are going to be great. So if you guys would like to be included in the giveaway today, let me show you what I'm giving away. These are so fun. I don't know if you guys have seen me wearing these, but my husband, who's just an absolute rock star, he wears one all the time around the house and out in the neighborhood. Oh, Maria says hello. Oh, thank you. This is up for grabs today. So if you want to be included in this giveaway today, why don't you comment in the comment section with where you are tuning in from, so I know where you are. If you're in the United States, awesome. You will automatically be entered. And at the end of this, we'll announce who the winner is. Okay, the one other thing I want to go over before I dig into all of the fun facts, guys, is pre-order. So I've gotten a lot of questions lately about where to order Scritch Scratch, and there it is up on the screen because Sarah's amazing. I have chosen to partner with The Bookseller here in Chicago. They're an independent bookstore that's really supportive of local authors, really supportive of authors in general. They've done all of my launches. And so I am actually running all pre-orders through them. So if you order Scritch Scratch through The Bookseller, which is the information on the screen, they're going to send you not only the signed book, because I'm going in and signing all of those, but these little goodies with it. So Sourcebooks made this. This is their, I thought it's so clever, a bookmark that looks like a passenger ticket for the Spirits bus. And this is the other side. It's beautiful. And they're also going to send you a button. It says, someone's haunting you. I think it's so perfect and adorable. So if you want to get those with your pre-order, even though this is obviously available on all online retailers, go through The Bookseller. Not only are they really cool people and very supportive, but I know their store has taken a hit because of coronavirus, as have most stores. So if you can throw a little business their way, I know they'd be really appreciative. Carmel, Indiana, but wow, there's so many different locations. Yay. And now Algonquin, Illinois. Awesome. Good to see you all. Okay, so I'm going to, if it's good with you guys, I'm going to dig into the fun facts section of this. I thought it would be interesting to give you guys kind of like a behind the scenes look at a few little details in Scritch Scratch, because I don't know, I think it's fun to leave, for me, it's fun to put little Easter eggs in my books that maybe other people might pick up on or might not. And so I have three main ones that I want to share with you guys today. The first one is where my main character's name came from. I am notoriously bad at character names. Sometimes I will pick names out of commercials. I really struggle. If you guys look at your screen right now, that is my main character's full name, Claire Elizabeth Coaster. So fun fact behind the scene here is that Claire actually originated from my dog. My dog's name is Claire. That's Claire right there. So I didn't have to look too far actually to come up with the name Claire. Elizabeth is actually my daughter's middle name. So Elizabeth was pretty easy to come up with as well. That was just a little nod to her in the book that most people wouldn't know. And then Coaster actually originates from one of my favorite places that I've ever visited with my family, Sweden. In Sweden, there's a North Coaster and a South Coaster. And I'm going to apologize right now if anyone watching is actually from Sweden, because I'm probably butchering this name. I've always said Coaster, but it may have a different pronunciation. This was the most gorgeous, one of the most gorgeous, rugged places we've ever been. And these pictures kind of reflect how tranquil and peaceful I thought it was. So I thought it was kind of a fitting thing to make that Claire's last name. So that is, and if you've never been to Sweden, put it on your bucket list. It's a beautiful place. So Claire Coaster, now you know how she got her name. You can share that with your students. For librarians and teachers watching, that's one of the questions I get asked a lot by students. How do you name your characters? And often it's weird little things like that where I'll just put bits and pieces from other things together to come up with a name. Okay, so our second Easter egg in the book is actually a reference to an educator friend, a teacher friend of mine who has been so supportive. I cannot even tell you, but check this out on this page. And I think this is way back in like maybe chapter 19 or 20 of the book. I can't remember, but see the name Ms. Mancini on the page? That is a reference to Nikki Mancini, who is a friend of mine. Here she is with her stack of books. This is her natural habitat, either a library or a bookstore. Nikki is supportive and kind, and above all, she's extremely passionate about literacy for her students and making sure that students have the books that they need in their hands. And she's tireless that way. And so I wanted to give her a little fun little nod in the book. So she is in here as well. So that's Easter egg number 2. Easter egg number 3 is my favorite one. So I love scary movies. And I like a broad range of scary movies, right? Like some of them actually scary, some of them like more fun scary. And I created a scene toward the middle part of Scritch Scratch that takes place in a bathroom. And this scene is very, very loosely inspired. There's a picture. Let me know in the comments if anyone recognizes this, what movie this might be from. And by the way, Facebook user, whoever said love all the insights, thank you so much. It's fun to share where these things came from. I mean, when you're writing a book, I feel like there are so many bits and pieces of it in your head at all times, and it can be difficult to kind of pull it together and explain to people where you came up with things. But some of these things are just fun because most of the time folks wouldn't know where they came from. And it's kind of like a little inside secret. And yes, another Facebook user says, yay, Nicole Mancini. Yeah, she got the nod. So does anyone recognize this picture? I think it's hilarious. I don't know why I felt compelled to do this, but there's a scene in Scritch Scratch, and I think we might have a snapshot of it somewhere here. Or maybe I didn't turn it in. Oh, here's another picture from it as well. Yeah, someone guessed it. It's from Scream. It's from the first Scream. I love the Scream movies. I think they are so fun, like stupid fun, right? They're not terrifying. They're just silly. And I think they're a blast. So I actually created a scene in Scritch Scratch, and don't worry, there's no blood. Like this is still a very appropriate book for your, 9 to 12 or 13-year-old. But there is a scene that is loosely inspired by this scene in Scream, where the main character is in a bathroom and she hears these sounds, but she kind of does what I do when I go into any kind of public bathroom. I'm always tempted to kind of look down and see how many shoes there are, if there's people in all the stalls, or how many people there are. And in this particular scene, my main character, Claire, is hearing something, but when she looks under the stalls, she's not seeing anything until she sees a shoe slowly lower and then another. And that really did kind of originate from Scream. So it was kind of fun to play with that and toss that in there. Kim. Kim. Hey, I'm not surprised that you guessed it. If it's Kim Ventrella, then I'm not shocked that you figured out that was Scream. Okay, so fun facts. I'm glad you guys thought they were funny. I think they're silly, and it was really fun to work those into the book. I'm going to move into what I think is going to be one of my favorite parts of our launch today, and that's because I haven't done very many readings of this book at all. I've read excerpts just a couple of times online, and for whatever reason, the excerpt that I felt really drawn to today is the one that kind of elaborates on the title. I get a lot of questions about the title. I think most people find Scritch Scratch to be a very unsettling title. It kind of gets under your skin and you're not sure what it refers to. And I love that about it. Another little behind the scenes tidbit is that this wasn't the original name. I think I mentioned I really struggle with names, and that includes titles. So the original name for this book was Boy 396. And then it morphed and it became, I think, The Boy on the Bus. And then there was one other iteration of it, and then it became Scritch Scratch, thanks to my publisher, who really took a long time to help come up with just the right tone and feel for this title, because I do think this is absolutely perfect. But I get a lot of questions about, well, what is it a reference to? Like, is there a sound in the book? Is there, a character or something in the book called a Scritch Scratch, which would be a pretty cool monster? But no, I'm going to read you actually the excerpt where Scritch Scratch comes into play. So let me give you a little bit of background here so you know what has happened in the book already. Claire has already gone on the tour bus with her father. All right, so she's already had to go on the bus to help him for one evening. His driver gets sick, which means he has to actually drive the bus. And so she's kind of helping hand things out and keep control of all the passengers as best she can. And she's already seen the boy at the back of the bus and he vanished, right? And she's got this very bad feeling that she can't explain, the sensation that happened when she saw this boy. And it's really, I don't know if you guys have ever felt something that is kind of hard for you to describe. Maybe it's kind of a not a familiar feeling, but that's what she's experiencing. And she's at home now in her room by herself, but it's the same night that the tour took place on. So it's bedtime. And I see whoever that Facebook user is saying this part was creepy. I'm glad you feel like that because this is one of the first scenes I've ever written where I felt kind of creeped out when I was writing it, imagining it. Yes. And Sarah's just giving everyone permission or showing how you guys can give permission so we can see your names. If you want your name visible, you don't have to do that. But if you want to, go for it. All right. So here we go. This is about, I would say it's maybe 2 pages. Okay, guys? Most nights, I fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. I blame it on 7th grade. You can't expect a girl to sit through things like Spanish, pre-algebra, and history without getting exhausted. It's impossible. But tonight is different. Tonight, I'm lying in bed thinking about the boy on the bus. His face was so pale, and those dark eyes, I'm half afraid I'll never forget them and half afraid I will. What was he mouthing to me anyway? No matter how many times I run that moment through my brain, I can't make sense of the words. And then he was gone, vanished right into thin air like he was never there to begin with. Only I know he was. White face, pale lips, dark eyes, number 396. A million thoughts crash around in my mind as I stare up at the ceiling. It has more cracks in it tonight than I remember. Dark ones. Jagged veins snake their way across the white paint and stop where the walls meet the ceiling. It kind of reminds me of an ant farm. I always hated them. Thought it was bananas to bring any bugs into the house on purpose, but Sam loved them. Pretty sure he named every one of those little nasties Claire just to upset me. I'm trying to drift off to sleep when a faint scratching sound starts up in the wall behind my head. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. Scritch, scratch. My heart gallops around in my chest. I listen, swallowing hard when the scratching gets louder. I've never heard this before. Not once in the 12 years I've lived in this place. Maybe it's a mouse. I pull my blankets tighter around my neck and try to ignore it. It's nothing scary. It's nothing scary. It's nothing scary. Scritch, scratch. The scratching is drawn out this time, like nails slowly dragging down a chalkboard. I focus on the beams of light coming through my window from the street, wishing they were brighter so they could light up my room. Better yet, I wish that I were brave enough to just reach over and turn on my lamp. Instead, I'm frozen in place, and my entire room is blanketed in a deep, terrifying darkness. It must be a mouse. I try to imagine him in there, his little whiskers and curled up tail, and tell myself he's cute. Not something big and hairy and fanged trying to get into my room. Just a hungry little mouse looking for some crumbs. He'll eat and then leave, and I'll never see him again. Only I do. The scratching grows more frantic, and now I can hear little bits of plaster inside my wall breaking off and falling. If I didn't know better, I'd think someone was trying to claw their way out of the wall and into my bed. I immediately start counting. 1, 2, 3. The only thing keeping me from screaming my head off is the calm that counting brings me. 4, 5, 6. Think about happy things, Claire. Puppies, rainbows, ice cream. I start sweating despite the chill in my room. The scratching stops for a moment, leaving me in the most dreadful quiet I've ever heard. Whoever came up with the phrase "silence is golden" was a moron. It's awful. I'm poised to climb out of bed and race down to the living room to sleep on the sofa when the doorknob starts rattling. My blood runs cold. Mice can't rattle doorknobs. The rattling stops for a minute, then starts back up harder than before. I choke back a sob. My door doesn't even have a lock on it, so that means whoever or whatever is on the other side is just trying to scare me. But why? 1,000 terrible possibilities flicker through my mind. Sam, is that you? You stop it right now if it is. I hiss into the darkness. I wait for an answer, but I get nothing. No scratching, no rattling, no Sam. Just the painful beating of my own heart in my ears. My curtains suddenly billow out as if they're caught in a breeze. They look like two pale yellow ghosts bouncing around the pane of glass. I stare in horror at my window, remembering that I double-checked the lock on it before I climbed into bed. It's secured tightly. Fluttering curtains when there's no breeze can only mean one thing. There's something in my room, and it isn't a mouse. I've got to get out of here. Okay, so now you guys see where the Scritch Scratch came from. I hope that you liked that little piece of the book. That was honestly one of my favorite scenes to write in any book, just because I could envision how she was feeling. I don't know about you guys, but when I get into bed at night, sometimes that's when my imagination runs wild, and hearing and seeing things, yeah, that could really do it for me, especially if I'm already convinced that I have seen or experienced what might be something paranormal that day. So that was a very, very fun scene to write. And I do love the fact that the publisher worked so hard with me to come up with a title that matched that eerie tone and that unsettling atmosphere of being alone and looking at these cracks in your walls and thinking, wow, these things never looked like this before. Something is happening and there's a feeling that's following me and I don't know how to explain it. So I love that scene. I hope you guys love that scene as well. I think it would be a good time, because I think this is going to take up a good chunk of time, because I know how much Jen and I like to talk. I think it would be a good time to bring Jen on, because we have some fun interview questions lined up that she's going to be asking. So Jen, if you are waiting in the wings, there she is.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm terrified. I heard you reading those pages, and my hair was standing up on my arm, because believe it or not, I woke up to that sound this morning around 5 a.m. and I thought, no, it's like a mouse in the attic, or maybe a bird got in the attic, and I just kind of tried to wish it away. And I'm going to believe that's what it was, because the alternative is quite terrifying. But you did such a good job with that.
I find it really coincidental, and I don't want to say fun, because I feel for you, but kind of fun that you woke up that way. I think it's very appropriate for the fact that we're celebrating Scritch Scratch. So, Jen, did you want to take a second? I would love for you to introduce yourself in your books to everybody so that they know who you are, because if they don't know who you are, they should. I love everything Jen writes, and she also has a book coming out soon. So why don't you take it away for a minute?
So my name is Jen Calonita, and Lindsay and I met, believe it or not, we're both Sourcebooks authors, but we didn't meet through Sourcebooks. We actually met because I was on Twitter and I was talking about this place in Florida that we both love to vacation, Captiva and Sanibel Island. And I was so excited that another author had been there. And so we were comparing notes. And of course, for some reason, whenever we visit, we're like a week apart. So eventually we will be there at the same time.
We will overlap someday.
But we are both Sourcebooks authors. I don't write spooky. Lindsay does that so well. I write more fairy tale and fantasy. This is my Sourcebook series. Mm-hmm. It's called Fairy Tale Reform School, about a girl who goes to a school run by former fairy tale villains. And there's been 6 books in the series. And I also do some work writing fairy tale things for Disney. I work on some of the Twisted Tale books in the Twisted Tale series. I've done Frozen, Conceal Don't Feel, and Snow White, which was called Mira Mira. And the middle grade that Lindsay was talking about is a time travel middle school adventure, kind of adventure. It's coming out this December. This is mine. It's called The Retake. It's my new baby. And
it's so good. It's so good.
Time traveling app. It's going to be a little hairy. So, but that's me. And I just love any chance to talk to Lindsay. And we have such different interests when it comes to writing, but we are so similar. Like when you were talking about how you try to name characters, I feel like this is a struggle a lot of authors have. I have the same struggle. I wind up using names of babies. So whenever a friend has a baby, I will name a character after them. I have one girlfriend who has 5 kids, and all 5 of her children have been characters in different series.
I think that's perfect. I think it's find inspiration anywhere you can. And for some reason, names are really hard for me. And sometimes I will pick a name and then for no explainable reason, it doesn't feel right for that character. And I'll change it 4 or 5 times until it feels right. But I really can't pinpoint why. It's a perfectly good name. I don't know. It's a hard thing.
And you'll never get to use the name Claire again because people will always associate Claire with Scritch Scratch. So
that's right. That is right. That's Claire. And I forgot to mention this. I did not put a picture of him in here, but in that excerpt, you guys probably noticed that Claire was saying, Sam, if that's you stop it right now. Sam is her brother in the book, and Sam was actually our bull mastiff who died a few years back. So when Scritch Scratch was at the height of being written, Sammy was still here in the house with us. And so I named both of the characters after our dogs. So both make a prominent appearance in the book. We're dog people. I don't know what to say.
I love that. So can you tell us where did this idea come from for Scritch Scratch? How did this come about?
So, I feel like with most of my books, the ghost comes first, right? There's an element of history in all of my books. So the ghost in Scritch Scratch, as well as the ghost in my debut middle grade, which was the peculiar incident on Shady Street, these were actually real people. And so their story and their storyline always kind of pops into my head as I'm researching. So maybe I come across it when I'm researching something else, or I just hear something about a ghost legend, and that kind of encourages me to follow and continue researching. So with Scritch Scratch in particular, the ghost came first. And when I heard this story, what struck me about the ghost and the way this particular ghost passed away was how I had never heard anything about this. And this is a major Chicago event. And I was shocked that I'd never heard anything about it. And it was also very kind of sad. It was kind of a sad story. I mean, obviously it's never happy when someone dies, but this was a really surprising thing to me. And so I started digging around a little bit more, and I decided this is definitely going to be the ghost. But I think this is where things get tricky for writers like me who write paranormal things, and specifically ghost stories like this, is that you have to be careful that you're not always just introducing ghosts the same way. And I think there's a couple kind of standard things that you see happening with paranormal stories. Someone moves into a new house and whoops, it's haunted, right? That happened in Peculiar Incident. So I definitely didn't want to replicate that. Or suddenly their current house is haunted for whatever reason. And with Scritch Scratch, I started thinking, it would be amazing if I could use these ghost tours that go through Chicago as a vehicle for my ghost. Like, what if, and I think that's a big question that a lot of authors ask ourselves over and over again during this process. What if the ghost isn't in one spot, but the ghost follows my main character home, meaning that she's on this bus, and you can see these buses. I don't know, right now with COVID, obviously they're not running, but normally without a pandemic, right, there are these tour buses that are huge and they go all over the city, and you can see them especially on weekends. And in October, it's extremely busy, right? And they'll stop and they'll let people out, and you can just see flashes from cell phones as people take pictures of the locations. And I started thinking, man, it would be fun to get my character on one of those buses, take her to a lot of different locations that are rumored to be haunted, and then have a ghost follow her home so that she doesn't really know where this ghost came from. So the first part of the mystery really is, what event are we looking at here, right? Where did the ghost come from? Because knowing that is going to be critical to solving what the ghost wants, right? And so I was fortunate in writing this because another good friend of mine here in Chicago, Adam Selzer, is actually a Chicago-based historian and author who writes books for Simon & Schuster and a few other publishers. He actually was running a ghost tour just like the one in this book at the time. And I convinced my husband, God love him, to go on this bus with me. He loves Halloween and spooky stuff too. Here's me and Adam actually at the tour. So way back in like 2000, I guess it was 16. That gives you guys a little glimpse into how slow publishing is. We went on this tour. We stopped at all the locations, and the atmosphere was so fun and spooky and charged. This is right here. What you're looking at, this picture is the Alley of Death. I'm going to show you here in the map. I know it has a horrible name, right? The Alley of Death. It's awful. I'm not going to tell you what happened in the Alley of Death. Obviously, you know there's death, but yeah. So here it is right up here in the upper part of the map. There's the Alley of Death. So this tour really replicates what I went on Adam's bus, what my husband and I went on. And the atmosphere was so fun that I just thought, you know, I'm going to work this into the book for sure. And so I guess to answer your question in a very long and roundabout way, ghost came first, and then really how do I introduce the ghost? And that's when I really got into the ghost tour part. And that then involved a lot of researching all of those different locations, figuring out what happens there so that I can be factually correct. This is the Hull House. If you guys haven't heard of the Hull House, that's another location on the ghost tour. And it was rumored to have a devil baby in the upper window back in, like, I think it was 1913. 1913 was apparently just the year of ghosts and terrible events in Chicago, because it comes up repeatedly in my research. And I saw Miss Mancini said, "Wow, that's when your hair was short." I'm working really hard at not chopping it all off again, but the feeling that I need to do it is there. So we'll see how long this lasts. Great question.
Well, I mean, that leads me to my next question. Ooh. You know, you're showing these pictures, you're talking about going on this ghost tour, and I'm laughing to myself because I'm equally fascinated and terrified and don't know if I could survive a ghost tour, maybe with you. So it makes me wonder, how long have you been fascinated with spooky things?
I feel like forever. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day because my daughter, who's about to turn 14, has always been fascinated with marine biology, marine animals, and, you know, manatees, and, you know, even researching, you know, problems with various ecosystems. And I feel like she just came to us that way. Like, she's been that way ever since she was teeny tiny. And there wasn't necessarily some factor. I don't feel like, maybe just exposure to these things in Florida, but I don't think there was any one thing that made her love this. And I think that's kind of the way it is with me. I've loved Halloween in particular, and spooky books and things as long as I can remember. I still love dressing up for Halloween. We used to host this gigantic party. And I think part of the draw for me with things like that is that it's really like the one time a year that you can be anyone you want to be without question. And you can fully enjoy that. Oh yeah. I love these pictures. So this is from many years ago. Let me tell you, I guess that's me in the center. Yep. And then that's my husband is my prom king zombie. And then the tall one with the just stuff hanging, who, by the way, I say tall, but he's 6'3" now. That's my oldest, who just dropped at college now. That was us at one of our Halloween parties. So I'm fortunate to have a family who also enjoys spooky things and can really get into the spirit, because we literally do celebrate Halloween for like 2 months, you know, every year. Oh my goodness. This is another one of us being so silly. Yeah, Halloween has always been a thing for us. And I can honestly say that with spooky books, I don't know if anybody watching has ever read this book, but the book that really kicked off my love of scary books, I read it when I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade. It was called The Dollhouse Murders. Have you heard of this, Jen? Did you ever see or read this book?
I did not read it.
It was absolutely terrifying. It's the general premise is that the main character moves into her aunt's house for a visit during the summer. And there is in the attic, there is a dollhouse that is a replica of the house she is staying in. And at night, that dollhouse comes to life and the dolls reenact a crime.
Wow.
It was so scary. And I did reread it as an adult recently. And while I think some things about the book maybe haven't aged all that well, I think the general mystery part of it and the fear factor aged very, very well. So yeah, if you haven't seen that book, maybe look it up. It was terrifying.
I mean, that reminds me a little bit. So my youngest, like you said, he was born loving spooky. He's obsessed with Halloween. And
I remember you saying that.
And he loves your books. He loves R.L. Stein books, and R.L. Stein blurbed your book for Scritch Scratch, which is just incredible. I mean, there's no better validation than that. But there was a Haunting Hour episode where, you ever hear of a worry doll?
Yes.
Those little worry dolls.
And I love Haunting Hour, by the way.
There was an episode where the worry dolls kind of came alive and were kind of haunting the child. Like he was worried into them and those things were coming true. And, even now I'm like, I can't really watch that episode with you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you've always been fascinated with Halloween and spooky things, then it leads me to wonder, have you had any ghostly encounters or supernatural moments?
Okay. So kids always ask this. I think it's like their favorite question to ask, besides like, what's your favorite food? Like I get that a lot too, but, no, I've never had a paranormal experience. And as much as I would like to say, I want to have this, like, I think I'm better at imagining these things and writing these things than I would be at actually dealing with these things if it happened in real life. Like my main characters, they have these moments of fear, right? And they panic and everything. But in reality, they're quite brave. Like they face down the situation. They face down this ghost. They do what needs to be done in order to get unhaunted. If that's even a word, they get it done. I think I would be in tears, dissolved, like in a corner of my house. So no, I've never experienced anything paranormal. But I will let you know. You guys will be the first to know if I do. I'll try to get it on film.
Well, I mean, Lindsay, I'm just so excited for you. I can't wait for my copy to come in the mail of Scritch Scratch. Tuesday can't come quick enough. I will only read it with the lights on during the day, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. And guys, I hope that you wrote down the name of Jen's next book, The Retake. I have had a chance to read it. Very, very lucky author over here. It is fantastic and extremely timely as well. I feel like social media is always an issue, especially in this age group. And wouldn't we all love to be able to get a do-over? And so I think that you guys will really, really like it. So The Retake, make sure you put it on your list. And thank you so much for joining me, Jen. You made this way more fun today.
Thank you.
Yay! Okay, so we are nearing the end. I didn't want to keep you guys on forever today because a lot of you who I've seen today, you guys have supported me for months, literally since before the arcs for this book came out. You guys have been cheering me on. And I know I've said this before, but I just want to say one more time, thank you very much, because publishing can be a very lonely industry. You wouldn't think so, but it can be really tough. And so having all of you guys at my side to share the adventure with has been really, really great. And I appreciate it. I think it might be time, if Sarah behind the scenes is ready, to share the winner of the Scritch Scratch t-shirt. So Andrea, if you're still on here, go to my website at lindsaycurrie.com and go to the contact form and send me your mailing address. And I will be sending you a Scritch Scratch t-shirt. And for anyone who missed this at the very beginning of the launch event, the official release date for Scritch Scratch is Tuesday, the 1st of September. If you would like to get a copy, please consider going through the bookseller in Chicago so that you can get these goodies along with it. Boom, boom. Although if you have a favorite retailer of your own or a favorite indie bookstore, go ahead and go through those as well. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining me today. I can't wait for us to all celebrate on Tuesday when it's actually out in the world. Thanks, guys.